How we can do number 2 on the assessment readiness test. So we have 2 sets of data here. So the first question involves drawing a box and whisker plot on the same number line. So to do that, you're going to first go to your graphing calculator. You're going to go to Stat Edit, and you're going to put both sets of data in. I have the NFC's data in list 1, the AFC's in list 2. And you're going to hit Stat, arrow over to calculate, enter on one variable stats, second one to tell it list 1. So I'm going to drag these over. This is for list 1, and I'm going to scroll down and get the other information that I need. And now I'm going to do the same thing for list 2. Stat edit, enter on one variable stats, second 2, enter. Scroll down to get the rest of the information. Make sure when you do this, you write that information down. Really, from this first part, you only need the mean and the standard deviation. But you will need all of this stuff from the other ones. So if you don't want to write down the other parts, we don't use those. So now to make my box and whisker plot, I look at my highest and lowest number. In the NFC, it's 18 to 28. In the AFC, it's 15 to 38. So I need a number line that goes from at least a low point of 15 to a high point of 38. This is representing the number of points. So I give it a label. I'm going to start here at 15. I'm going to go up by 5s. 20. 25, 30, 35, 40. And if you want to put in more details, you can. So now for my NFC, I'm going to put that one in green for the Green Bay Packers. The minimum is 18. So above 18, I'm going to put a dot for the minimum. The maximum is 28. I'm going to put a dot above that. Above the Q1, median, and Q3, I'm going to put lines. Those will form my box. And then I draw my box around those and connect my box out to my whiskers. I'll do the same thing for the AFC. The minimum is 15. Now I'm going to put this one a little higher above here. And if you'd like, you can write in the numbers here too so it's easier to see. Minimum 15, maximum 38. Q1 is 20. Median is 23.5. And the Q3 is 27. Draw your box around those three, connect them out to the whiskers. So now that I have that done, the next question is to identify any outliers. So I'm going to start with the NFC data. I'm going to notice my Q1 and Q3 are 22 and 26. I need those because this is the formula to find the lower fence and to find the upper fence, and this is again for the NFC. I'm going to, for the upper fence, do Q3 plus 1.5 times the IQR. So in this problem, my lower fence is going to be 22, and I can see my interquartile range here is 26 minus 22, which is 4. So it's going to be 22 minus 1.5 times 4, which is 16. My upper fence is going to be my Q3 plus 1.5 times 4, which is 32. So for the NFC, I need to look and see, are there any numbers lower than 16, that's my lower fence, or higher than 32? I don't see anything falling below 16. Here's my lower fence. And my upper fence is 32. So that whole graph is inside the fences. So what I say here is the NFC has no outliers. Now I'm going to do the same for the AFC. I'm making a note on the AFC of my interquartile range, which is 27 minus 20, or 7. Q1 is 20, Q3 is 27. So I'm going to do 20 minus 1.5 times 7. Which ends up being 9.5 for my lower fence. And my upper fence is going to be 27 plus 1.5 times 7, which is 37.5. So now if I look at that graph, 9.5 is my lower fence, that's off the chart here, nothing below that. And 37.5 is my upper fence, which is just inside 38. So there is an outlier. It is 38. So for the AFC, 38 is an outlier. For the next part, I'm going to look at the pictures. As I'm looking at these, the two graphs look pretty well balanced. I would accept symmetric as an answer for both. If you did look at this, especially the top one here, you might be tempted to say right skewed because of this longer whisker to the right here. But also, to counter that, the box's left side of the box is longer than the right side. So in one sense it's right skewed, in the other sense it's left skewed. So I think the best answer is that the, which one was that? That was the AFC is symmetric. I would say the NFC, you're safe saying that as well. Although I would also accept, if I look back at that, it does have a slight skewedness to it because the left whisker is longer than the right whisker and the left side of the box is a little bigger. So it is a little more stretched out on the left side. So I would also accept if you said it was slightly left skewed. So now using that information, it asks us to choose the measure and center and spread that best describes the data, and later explain why those are the best representation. So when we have symmetric distributions with no outliers, we can use the mean and the standard deviation. However, in one of these, we have an outlier. So when that happens, or when one of them is skewed, we should use the median and IQR. Because one of the data sets has an outlier. Or you could say one is skewed as well. You can't use the median and IQR for the one with the outlier and the mean and the standard deviation for the other because you need to compare them in this problem. And when we make a comparison, we need to use the same measures to compare those. So now the next part says calculate those measurements. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to have for the NFC, the median, and the IQR. And I'm going to write that for the AFC. what the median is and what the IQR is. So I can look back on what I did on my calculator, and I can see the median is 24.5 here and 23.5 there. So the NFC has a median of 24.5 with an interquartile range of 4. The AFC has a median of 23.5 with an interquartile range of 7. The final part of this problem is use those to compare. Keyword compare. So how are they alike? How are they different? So what I would say then is that the NFC has a center 1 point higher than the AFC. So you could say they're pretty similar, but what that means is the NFC typically scores more points. Not very much, just 1. We're using the center to describe the typical behavior. You should also compare the spread. The AFC is more spread out. We can see that because the IQR is 3 points higher. So what that means is that the AFC has a lot more discrepancy in the points shown. Some teams score a lot more compared to other teams. We can see that in the data here. We have from one team to the next, someone scoring 38 points compared to 15. That's a wider range. The data is more spread out in the red graph. Whereas the NFC is more condensed. It's more typical, typically closer together. So what that means in context here is the games for the NFC might be more evenly matched. In the AFC, they might be more of blowouts. And we can also see the center comparison a little here, how this one, the green one, is to the right more than the red one. So that I kind of already answered the final question here for D. Which conference is more equitable? I would say the NFC, because they have a lesser spread, IQR. The team that scores more points is also the NFC because their median is higher.